Welcome to Romance Story Audio. In the midst of this fast-paced world, thank you for taking a moment to slow down and listen. We hope this brings you peace and comfort. Now, here is the story Romance Story Audio brings to you today. Please, enjoy. Lie back, spread your legs. Her cold voice echoed, perfectly professional, like it was just another procedure. He was my ex-boyfriend, now the OB-GYN at the hospital I came to today for surgery. I lifted my head and froze. His eyes were distant, his face expressionless, as if I were just another patient. I wanted to speak, to ask if I could switch doctors, but my throat tightened. I watched him calmly slip a protective cover over the ultrasound probe. Those hands, once so familiar, made my chest ache. My face flushed, my legs felt heavy. I couldn't bring myself to get on the exam table. After setting everything up, he furrowed his brow slightly, irritated, and handed me the order slip. "Go to the next room, next patient," he said curtly. My nose stung. Clutching the paper, I walked into the room next door. There, a female doctor performed the scan. I finally felt at ease and cooperated much more naturally. When the exam was over, I sat outside waiting for the results. My mom went to pick up the report. I stared blankly at the people walking past, but in my mind, all I could think about was running into Jason Grant again in that exam room. Jason was my college boyfriend. We broke up because of his career choice. Neither I nor anyone around us could accept it. I had begged him back then to switch majors, but he was determined to become a gynecologist. Everyone told us to break up. Deep down, I couldn't get over the thought of him seeing other women's bodies every day. It's been 3 years since we split. Clearly, he still chose the path he loved. And me? I've just been barely getting by. "Mom, how's the result?" My mom rushed over, her eyes filled with fragile hope as she glanced at the doctor. For the past 2 years, she'd taken me to countless hospitals. She aged so much from all the stress. Getting this appointment with a specialist took months of waiting. The doctor looked at the report, her expression serious, and shook her head. My body started trembling. I've gone through so many checkups, so many surgeries, so many disappointments. Each time I hoped, and each time I was let down. She adjusted her glasses and said flatly, "This will be difficult to treat. For such a young woman, your uterus is in a terrible condition." My mom smacked me on the back of the head. Her mouth launched into the same tirade I've heard for years. "I don't know what she's been doing with her life to end up like this. She's still young. She's supposed to get married one day. Doctor, please help her." As I hung my head in silence, the doctor hesitated for a moment and asked, "Have you ever had an abortion before?" "No," I choked out. Every doctor always asks that. And now, every time I hear the question, I can't hold back my emotions. "Even now, you still won't admit it?" Mom's voice cut like a knife. "If you really did go through with that, we wouldn't blame you. Just get proper treatment." Her words pierced straight into my heart. Tears burst out of me. I shouted back, "I didn't! I didn't! I swear I didn't!" I bolted from the room, only to run straight into Jason Grant's arms. What was he doing here? Did he hear what the doctor asked me earlier? Somehow, I was afraid he'd get the wrong idea. In the year we dated, the most we ever did was hold hands and hug. Would he think I'd been reckless after our breakup? I looked up at him, eyes welling with tears. But he just walked past me calmly, handed a test slip to the nurse and said, "This is urgent. I was passing by after work and thought I'd drop it off." "Doctor?" "Grant, perfect timing," the nurse said. "This patient's file. Could you take a look? You're the only one in our department qualified to perform this kind of surgery." I watched helplessly as she handed my medical file to Jason. The room spun, and my vision went black. When I came to, I was lying in a hospital bed. Turning my head, I saw the chart by my side. In bold text, attending physician, Dr. Jason Grant. My mom brought over a glass of water, helping me sit up and drink. Her face clouded with disapproval. "Why is it still a male doctor for something so personal?" She scowled. A hospital this big doesn't have a single good female OB/GYN? She's a traditional woman from rural Iowa, and the idea of a man doing gynecology disturbed her. Truth be told, I wasn't feeling great about it either. Why was Jason suddenly listed as my primary doctor? Mom, I want to leave. I don't want to continue treatment here. My voice was hoarse, my emotions drained. You must be joking! A sharp voice cut through the room, startling both me and my mother. Jason stepped into view, holding my chart. His tone was reprimanding. There is no gender in medicine, not in front of a doctor. I'm confident in this surgery. If you're going to let gender bias stop you from getting the best possible care, that's just foolish. And what kind of doctor are you to say that? My mother snapped. You're a man doing gynecology. What, just to look at women's bodies? How's my daughter supposed to get married after being examined like this? She looked like she was about to hit him. I quickly pulled her back. Mom, can you give us a moment? I need to ask the doctor something in private. You're always hiding things. If you weren't, you wouldn't have gotten some shameful disease like this. She stormed out, muttering accusations the whole way. Now it was just the two of us. I could feel my heartbeat spiraling out of control. My chest tightened. Trying to play it cool, I forced a polite smile. Long time no see. Jason, as cold and distant as ever, replied, You're awake. There are some things I need to tell you. His serious expression made me nervous. Doctors never look like that when it's good news. I reviewed your case, Vanessa, he said. From what I can tell, there weren't any major issues before. So, I'd guess I'm not wrong in saying, your current condition is the result of repeated surgical trauma. The procedures you've undergone have severely damaged your uterus. My mind went blank. Everything after that turned into noise. I couldn't hear a thing. He wasn't wrong. Over the past few years, I had endured so much pain, physically, emotionally, and mentally. My parents and relatives criticized me relentlessly. Even though I had never done anything shameful, doctors still looked at me with suspicion, as if my body told a different story. It felt like all the strength I had was being drained. Jason Grant caught me just before I collapsed. This isn't anything serious, he said gently. Just a minor procedure. After that, I'll prescribe some medication. You'll be fine with proper rest. He lightly patted my back. That simple gesture broke me. I sobbed into his white coat, years of humiliation, fear, and helplessness soaking through his shirt. I'm sorry, I choked out. It's all right. Just calm down. You need to be in a stable emotional state for a proper recovery. He met my tearful eyes for a few seconds, then silently looked away and walked out of the room. Now he was cold, like we had never shared anything, like we were strangers. My heart ached. I looked down and saw that he had forgotten a folder. I grabbed it and ran after him. Outside, I saw a nurse playfully chatting with Jason. I heard you became a gynecologist because of your girlfriend, she teased. Was it that new girl who just started here? Her words made my heart tremble. We had been broken up for years. Whoever she was talking about, it clearly wasn't me. Yeah, Jason replied simply. That's all in the past. We've been broken up a long time. In that moment, it felt like I was falling from heaven to hell. The nurse looked at him with starry eyes. Half joking, half flirting, she said, Then I guess I still have a shot. Doctor? Grant, you're really something. It's hard not to fall for you. I had no energy to watch them flirt. Another nurse passed him some files, then quietly returned to her duties. I remembered how, back then, I mocked his choice of profession. How many harsh things I said. Now I didn't even feel worthy of him. I didn't say goodbye to anyone. I quietly requested discharge, went home, packed my things, and rented a small apartment nearby. I'd heard enough lectures from my parents. Being sick was exhausting enough. But home, instead of being a safe haven, felt like a wrecking ball crashing into an already fragile heart. In the new apartment, I dumped my suitcase at the door and collapsed onto the couch. All I could think about was Jason. How much I regretted giving him up. just because I couldn't accept his career. And now, ironically, I needed someone exactly like him to heal the body I once thought was strong. When emotions spiral like that, they become impossible to control. Tears fell silently onto my phone screen. I hesitated, then unblocked Jason's number and went to check his timeline. There it was, a recent post. Some people can't be held onto. Even when you meet again, they're already out of reach. Attached was a melancholic photo. Was he talking about me? Was he telling me to give up? Even if we met again, maybe it really was too late for us. Suddenly, there was a loud bang. The front door slammed shut, and the hallway light flicked on. Startled, I shot upright like a startled bird. Turning my head, I saw Jason Grant, dressed casually, a suitcase in hand. "You're the roommate the landlord mentioned?" I blurted out, stunned. When I signed the lease, the landlord did say someone else would be sharing the apartment. I didn't expect it to be him. I had already paid the deposit for 3 months. Too late to back out now. I honestly wanted to lock myself in the bathroom and cry. Jason looked just as surprised. "You?" he said, his tone cold and indifferent, as if seeing me again was the last thing he wanted. Not that I was thrilled about it either. "Ha ha, what a coincidence. You're not stalking me, are you?" "Please," I rolled my eyes. "If I were that desperate to get married, I'd rather stay single forever." "Then I'm taking the master bedroom. You can have the smaller one." Before I could even respond, Jason had already dragged his suitcase into the main room. I peeked inside the other room, half the size. I grumbled under my breath. Typical smug jerk. I hauled my suitcase into the smaller room and began unpacking. By the time I came out, Jason had already cleaned the common area and was even cooking. On the dining table sat several delicious-looking dishes. My stomach growled on cue. Noticing my hesitation, Jason casually ate a few bites, then went to wash the dishes. He deliberately left a plate full of food on the table. Only after he disappeared into his room did I sit down and eat. It was unbelievably good. When did he learn how to cook like this? Back in the day, he was always busy. Fast food, instant noodles, anything quick. He barely had time to chew. This was the first time I'd ever eaten something he cooked. After finishing, I automatically washed the dishes myself. Then we both retreated to our separate rooms. Neither of us disturbed the other. The only inconvenience? The bathroom was in the common area. That night, wearing an oversized t-shirt and shorts, I tiptoed out of my room to use the bathroom. As I opened the door, I ran smack into Jason, who was taking care of business. He was only wearing a small pair of boxers. I wanted to vanish on the spot. "Why didn't you knock?" he snapped, quickly pulling up his shorts. But suddenly, a wicked idea popped into my head. Leaning casually on the doorframe, my eyes drifted downward. Obviously, I wanted to take a good look. Jason's eyes narrowed. "You really haven't changed. Still shameless." It was the first time he'd said my name since we reunited. Oddly enough, that made me happy. I smirked like a mischievous rogue, letting my gaze roam over his body. He had abs now, much more toned than before. Suddenly, Jason stepped closer, pinning me lightly against the door. "You walk around like this, wearing so little in front of a man?" Only then did I realize how little I was actually wearing. The oversized t-shirt did little to hide my curves. If anything, it made me look even more alluring. I leaned in close, my voice soft near his ear. "It's not like this is new to you." "That's enough," Jason muttered. "Next time, wear something proper. Otherwise, I can't promise I'll be able to hold back." With that, he rushed back to his room. If I wasn't mistaken. His ears looked a little red. Did that mean he didn't actually hate me? Trying to stop myself from overthinking, I went to the bathroom quickly, then crawled into bed. The next morning, he was gone. Of course, he was always busy, probably left at dawn. On the table, I found a small takeout breakfast with a note. The steamed buns were slightly soggy from condensation. but I still picked one up and started eating. It tasted warm, a little sweet, comforting. Then I remembered my follow-up appointment today. The short message on the note tugged at my chest. Don't forget your checkup. Since moving out, my mom had been constantly texting me, mostly harsh words and guilt trips. Strangely enough, the only person who still cared about my health was Jason. Did he care because he still had feelings for me? Or was it just a doctor's sense of duty? Honestly, I hoped it was just professional concern. At least that would be easier to handle. After breakfast, I got ready and headed to the hospital. I was scheduled for a follow-up with Jason. After the checkup, as he was finishing up the report, I suddenly blurted out, "Jason, let's get back together." His pen froze mid-sentence. He slowly looked up at me, expression cold. "We broke up. Don't be childish." Childish? Maybe I was. To say goodbye so easily, then try to come back just as easily. I suppose that was selfish, but I meant it. I regretted walking away from our relationship just because I couldn't accept his career. "Jason, could you prescribe me one more thing?" I asked. "You've got everything you need. Take the medication as directed and come back for follow-up. I'm still missing one. I need something for regret, and only you have that prescription." I knew I was being shameless, but I couldn't help it. His face darkened. Without another word, he stood and motioned for me to leave. As I stepped out of the clinic, I ran into the nurse who'd been flirting with him earlier. She glanced at me with disgust. "Dr. Grant is a good man, and you didn't want him. Now you're crawling back after being used up and broken? I've never seen anyone so shameless." Her words cut like knives. On the way home, I picked up some groceries. I wanted to cook dinner and wait for Jason to come back. Maybe we could share a meal. I waited late into the night. Eventually, I drifted off on the couch. Had I scared him off? Did he not want to live here anymore because of me? That thought squeezed at something deep inside me. Even in sleep, I felt a dull ache in my chest. Then suddenly, I felt weightless, like I was being lifted. I blinked awake, groggy, only to find myself staring into Jason's deep, unreadable eyes. I was in Jason's arms. Would it be too late to pretend I was still asleep? I shut my eyes quickly, faking slumber. I figured if I just stayed still long enough, I could get up naturally. After a full day of post-op exhaustion, my arms were sore and weak. That's when I noticed the faint scent of antiseptic on him and the subtle trace of dried blood that hadn't quite faded. I abruptly sat up, face burning red. "Don't do anything so pointless again," I muttered. He turned his back to me. His voice was flat, distant, almost cold. I glanced at the plate of food on the table. Lowering my head, I said nothing. The warmth in my face faded as quickly as it had come. "Okay." I returned to my room quietly, heavy-hearted. Since that day, I stopped bothering him. Even when we crossed paths, I did my best to avoid eye contact. If we happened to be in the same space, I would quietly walk away. The date of my follow-up arrived quickly. Looking at the report results, I finally felt some relief. As long as the cervical condition didn't develop into cancer, it was manageable. The illness itself wasn't the scary part. What was terrifying was how society treated a woman with gynecological issues. Even if you did nothing wrong, you'd still be accused of being impure. I had lived through the longest months of my life under people's judgment. Now, it was finally over. Dr. Grant bought flowers. Think it's to celebrate that girl's recovery? Doubt it. They've been broken up for ages. You didn't know about his Lucky Charm doll? That thing was a gift from his ex. He still keeps it on his desk. Pretty sure he hasn't moved on. Or maybe he just forgot to throw it away. I overheard the two nurses chatting behind me in the break room. One of them was the same nurse who had tried to flirt with Jason before. He still has the Lucky Charm doll I made for him. I had stayed up all night sewing that doll before our college entrance exams, wishing for us both to be accepted into the same university. If he truly didn't care anymore, why would he keep something like that? My thoughts were interrupted by the loud ringing of my phone. It was my mom. I picked up, already irritated. "What is it?" "Your cousin's water just broke." Mom's voice was panicked through the static. "We're stuck in traffic on the way to the hospital. What do we do?" I could hear sirens and chaos in the background. "Where are you?" "Right by Eastwood Elementary." "Send me the license plate number. I'm nearby." Eastwood Elementary wasn't far from the hospital. By car, it would take time due to the detour. But I knew a shortcut. On foot, I could make it there fast. I hung up and sprinted toward the hospital office. Bursting in, panting, I leaned on Jason's desk for support. "Do you know how to deliver a baby?" Jason looked up at me, startled. I quickly explained the situation, out of breath and desperate. Jason quickly called for 2 nurses, pulled a hospital bed out into the hallway, and rushed off with us without hesitation. By the time we reached the location, a long line of 4 cars was stuck in traffic. We used the open space between them to transfer my cousin from the back seat to the hospital bed. Jason assessed her condition, his face serious as he turned to the nurses. "She's fully dilated, 10 centimeters. There's no time. Get something to cover her up. We're doing this here." I stood frozen, watching Jason's swift, practiced movements. My cousin screamed in pain, amniotic fluid pouring out, soaking the bed red. With my own eyes, I witnessed a tiny, new life entering the world, delivered by Jason Grant. After cutting the umbilical cord, he gently lifted the baby's legs and gave 2 soft pats. The baby let out a loud, clear cry. Everyone breathed a collective sigh of relief. At that moment, I was overwhelmed with admiration for him. How foolish I had been, I thought, to judge his career choice so harshly in the past. "She's bleeding heavily. Notify the OB/GYN surgical team. Prep an OR immediately." Jason's voice rang out, sharp and commanding. Everyone snapped to attention. I helped push the hospital bed toward the ER, while my mom carried the newborn close to her chest and followed behind. By the time we got my cousin into the operating room, I was drenched in sweat. My legs gave out beneath me. "Tell me," my mom sobbed, sitting on a bench outside the OR. "How could something like this happen just from stopping by our house for tea? What am I supposed to tell her husband's family now?" I had no strength left to comfort her. A nurse asked, "Has her husband been notified?" "I called him already," my mom replied. "Good," I whispered, barely catching my breath. My stomach cramped painfully. It had been a long time since I exerted myself like that. Just then, her husband and his family arrived. Jason stepped out of the OR at the same moment. My cousin's husband stormed up and grabbed Jason by the collar. "What happened to my wife?" "She's stable now," Jason answered calmly, removing the man's hand from his shirt. "She'll need rest, and the baby isn't fully developed yet. We're transferring the newborn to the NICU for observation." His words seemed to settle the man for a moment, until he snapped again. "You were the one who delivered my wife's baby. You... a man. What were you doing touching her? Did I agree to that? Where's your supervisor?" Seeing him growing more aggressive, I quickly stepped between them. "If it weren't for Jason, you might never have seen your wife again." "Oh, right," he sneered. "You're just as shameless as him, trying to make my wife end up like you?" I couldn't believe my cousin had married such a narrow-minded man. Not wanting to waste my breath, I grabbed Jason's hand and pulled him away. But her husband yanked my wrist so hard, I cried out in pain. "You two planned this, didn't you?" he shouted. "I don't care if you mess around with other men," my cousin's husband spat. "But if you drag my wife's name through the mud, your whole damn family's gonna pay for it." Before I could react, Jason stepped forward, grabbed the man's wrist, and twisted it hard, forcing him to let go of me. I followed emergency protocol exactly. If you have a complaint, take it up with hospital administration. But right now, watch your mouth. You don't get to insult a woman like that so carelessly. I stared at Jason, heart pounding. He looked furious, jaw clenched as he defended me. But in that anger, I felt warmth. He was standing up for me. My cousin's husband sneered, spat near my feet. "She's already known for being diseased trash. Everyone in the neighborhood talks about how filthy she is, dirtier than a sewer." "That's enough," my mom snapped. "Our family owes yours nothing. Take care of your wife and child on your own. We're leaving." She grabbed my arm and pulled me away. I glanced back one last time. My cousin's husband was stomping the ground in rage. Jason turned my head forward with quiet force. At the hospital entrance, my mom gave Jason a long, skeptical look. "So, you're just a former classmate?" Jason bowed slightly and replied, "I'm sorry, ma'am." I lied that day. He looked a little sheepish, sticking his tongue out playfully at me. I tried to hold back a laugh. Back when we were dating, I'd always kept it secret from my mom. When had Jason ever even met her? "So you two are living together now, huh?" She gave us a knowing look, like she'd figured out everything. I opened my mouth to explain, but Jason beat me to it. "Yes, ma'am, I'll take full responsibility for CanCon." "No wonder she insisted on moving out," my mom muttered. "She's grown up. I can't control her anymore." I wanted to explain further, but she had already turned away, walking off with calm detachment. Still, she didn't forget to text me later. "You already have a bad reputation at home. It'll be hard to get married like this. That doctor isn't bad. He's got a stable career. Don't waste the opportunity." After reading it, I was so frustrated I punched Jason in the arm. "Why did you let my mom misunderstand? And when exactly did you meet her?" I looked at him, serious now. Jason shrugged nonchalantly. "I dropped by your place to explain your medical situation to her. That's all." "Then why let her assume we're in that kind of relationship?" He looked me straight in the eyes. "Aren't we?" "You turned me down," I protested, voice cracking with emotion. "When did I say that?" he asked. "I just thought, as the guy, I should be the one to bring it up again." And with that, he pulled 2 family registration books out of his bag. One of them was mine. "When did my mom sell me off without telling me?" I cried. "Give it back." "Nope," Jason grinned. "Last time you left without a word. This time, I'm keeping your name in my household registry so you can't disappear again." "I don't want this, I don't—" But despite my protests, the corners of my mouth had already curled up so far. They nearly reached the seams of my sleeves. The joy on my face must have been the perfect example of wearing happiness on your sleeve. After marrying Jason Grant, I realized just how carefully he had preserved every little thing related to me. Through his friends, I found out that when I ended things with him unilaterally, he searched for me everywhere I could have possibly gone. He even took the time to patiently explain my medical condition to my mother and everyone in my family, defending my integrity to each person, one by one. That day, during our class reunion at a cozy bar downtown, my best friend leaned in and asked with a teasing grin, "Your husband's an OB-GYN. Does that really not bother you at all?" I smiled and replied sweetly, "Why would it?" "It's great, actually. If I ever have a baby, I already have my personal doctor to take care of everything. I feel totally safe with him." You know how hard it is to even get an appointment with him? I married the best. Any old bias I used to have about his profession, gone. Now, when I see him saving patients, he's nothing less than a guardian angel in my eyes. But my friend wasn't done. "I heard some husbands can't, be intimate with their wives anymore after seeing childbirth. You sure you're okay with that?" Her words brought back a flood of memories. Of the old me. Wasn't it exactly that kind of talk that made me walk away from Jason back then? God, how stupid I'd been. Now, I don't let other people's words shake me. Giving birth is life-threatening, I shrugged. If a man can't respect that, he's not the kind of man I want. Childbirth isn't something women have to go through. It's something we choose. When we love someone so much, we're willing to risk our lives to bring their child into the world. And men who can't appreciate that, not worth a second glance. I'd rather be single forever than marry someone who mocks childbirth. That's why I love Jason even more. Watching him deliver my cousin's baby, it was incredible. He saved 2 lives that day. The image of him in his white coat, focused and calm, kept replaying in my mind. I couldn't hear a word my friends were saying. One of them nudged me with her elbow. When I turned around, I saw Jason standing behind me. "What are you doing here?" I asked, surprised. "Came to pick you up," he said simply. A few of the guys from our class noticed him and immediately dragged him over. They made him sit down and handed him a drink. "You really bagged the class beauty, huh? Bottoms up." "Yeah, she's taken now." "We're heartbroken, man. You better finish that drink." I watched Jason smile faintly as he lifted the glass and downed it in one go to their cheers. Then someone handed him another drink. This time, the guy's tone turned sarcastic. "So I hear you're a doctor. Must be a pretty sweet gig, huh? Good money, right?" "Yeah, you must be raking it in." "Yeah?" One of the guys snorted. "You think you'd have landed our class queen if your family wasn't slipping envelopes under the table? No money? She wouldn't have given you a second glance." "Being an OB/GYN must be a sweet gig, huh? Bet you see a lot of hot girls naked. You ever feel anything?" "You're right," another chimed in, grinning. "What guy wouldn't have those thoughts? I totally picked the wrong major. Imagine being surrounded by pretty girls every day. Man, that's the life." The comments just got worse from there, everyone joining in, their words getting nastier by the second. I glanced at Jason, expecting him to flare up, but he simply swirled the whiskey in his glass, completely calm. How could he sit there while they said those disgusting things? At first, I was curious, wondering if he'd finally snap. But even as their voices sharpened and the jokes got crueler, he remained unfazed. I couldn't take it anymore. "Let's go," I whispered, grabbing Jason's hand and quietly leading him out. No goodbyes, no explanations. "Are you okay?" I asked once we were outside. "You just had 2 drinks, and your cheeks are already red." It hit me then. Jason wasn't used to drinking. He had a low tolerance. We walked slowly down the street, the cool night air easing the tension. After a while, I asked softly, "What they said? Did it bother you?" The streetlights cast a soft glow over Jason's face. He turned to me, looked me in the eyes, and said seriously, "Yes." "Then why didn't you say anything?" He paused. "Because what really hurt was that you left me years ago over those same kinds of words." His voice held a quiet accusation, and my heart ached with guilt. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "Back then, I was a coward. If I had just been a little braver, we wouldn't have lost so many years." I looked down at our feet, walking side by side in quiet rhythm. Part of me wished we could just walk like this forever, until we were old and slow, but still side by side. Suddenly, Jason stopped and intertwined his fingers with mine. "You can't run anymore," he said gently but firmly. "One day, I'll make you the woman every single one of them envies." "Okay," I smiled. "I believe you." "Come on, I want to show you something." Jason led me toward the busiest street in the city. Once we got there, he suddenly placed his hand over my eyes. "What are you doing?" I laughed. "Why so secretive?" He guided me a few steps forward. Then he let go and placed something small in my palm. I opened my eyes. It was a key. Looking up, I saw a small storefront, maybe 300 square feet. And hanging in the glass window was the little handmade doll I once gave him. "Go on," he winked. "Try the key." I looked at him, then at the shop, then back at myself, still in disbelief. Seeing him nod, I fought back a rush of emotion. My hands trembled as I unlocked the door. Inside, the shop was simply decorated in warm, natural wood tones. Shelves were lined with dolls, craft supplies, and handmade trinkets. "I paid 5 years of rent in advance," Jason said. "You can finally make a living doing what you're best at, your crafts. Here's my salary card. If you ever need anything, just use it." Jason handed it to me with a bright smile, and my eyes immediately filled with tears. Back then, I hand-stitched a lucky doll and gave it to him, so full of hope that someday I'd have my own little craft shop. All these years later, and he still remembered. I couldn't hold back anymore. Tears rolled down my cheeks. I threw myself into his arms. "You idiot! What kind of love potion did I give you to make you treat me this well?" "Whatever you gave me, I drank it all," he said with a grin. Just as I was still basking in the emotion of the moment, Jason's phone rang. His expression turned a little awkward, and I already knew. The hospital was calling. "You've been drinking?" Can you even go? It's not work, just a friend. Her roommate's in trouble. You sure you're okay with me going? Of course, I nodded. You don't have to ask me for permission. But something in his hesitation felt strange. You actually know her, Jason added quietly. We took a cab to a residential apartment complex that felt oddly familiar. The closer we got, the more intense the feeling became. Jason knocked on a door, and a woman, panicked, opened it and immediately pulled him inside. Please hurry and check on her. I'm really scared something's wrong. I followed Jason slowly into the room, and then I froze. No wonder this place felt familiar. Lying pale and lifeless on the sofa was someone I knew well from college, a former classmate, and the very person who once told me to break up with Jason. When I was misdiagnosed with a gynecological issue, she was the first one to spread the rumors and push me away. Our friendship ended that day. Now she lay there, face colorless. Blood was soaking through the cushion beneath her. Her body looked completely drained of life. Jason quickly assessed her condition, his expression turning grim. She's losing too much blood, he said urgently. Her uterus might have ruptured. We need to get her to the hospital right now. Her roommate stammered. She didn't want to go. I told her we should call 911, but she refused. I didn't know what else to do, so I called you. Jason's voice turned sharp for the first time. If you were going to respect her wishes, why call me? I'd never seen him this angry, but he still looked heartbreakingly composed. He motioned for me to help. Together, we lifted her onto Jason's back. He carried her out of the apartment while I hailed a cab. At the hospital, Jason calmly and thoroughly reported her condition to the emergency staff. Standing beside him, my chest felt warm. Once upon a time, I was ashamed of his profession, but now, all I could feel was pride. How clueless and pitiful she was, I thought, referring to the girl Jason had just saved. After everything settled down, Jason came over to me, breathing heavily. He looked exhausted, his body still stained from the emergency. I must look like a total mess, he said with a tired smile. I shook my head. Not at all. I'm proud of you. I hugged him tightly, not caring about the stains. Come meet my extended family with me, okay? I whispered. Okay, he replied softly, his gentle voice brushing against my ear. He leaned into my shoulder, finally letting himself relax with a sigh. The next morning, I didn't wake up until almost noon. When I walked out to the living room, I saw Jason in comfy clothes, already up and moving. He beamed when he saw me. I didn't know what your relatives liked, so I bought a bunch of different things. You pick whatever you want for them. Whatever's left, we can use ourselves. I looked at the mountain of gift boxes and couldn't help but laugh and cry at the same time. My family isn't that big, you know. Just Uncle Ben, Uncle Mike, and one cousin. You really overdid it. It's my first time meeting them. Gotta make a good impression. But how are we going to carry all of this? I'll drive. Just toss everything in the trunk, he said casually. Are you okay driving such a long distance? We can stop at rest areas if we need to. I'll be fine. Then he glanced at me, looking genuinely nervous. But I'm kind of anxious. What if they don't like me? Jason clung to my arm like a big kid, swaying side to side. I couldn't believe this was the same calm, composed doctor I knew. He was adorable. I sighed and rubbed his head. It'll be fine. We're just visiting. And if they don't like you, well, then we won't visit again. What if they really don't approve? I don't have much money, and I'm nothing special to look at. So what? I stared at him in disbelief. If it weren't for this pretty face of yours, how would a looks-obsessed girl like me have fallen for you in the first place? Jason gave me a pouty look and buried his head into my shoulder. I'm just saying, you've listened to them before. Who knows if you'll leave me again? I squinted suspiciously. He was definitely guilt-tripping me, but I had no proof. No way! You saw how serious I am. After I made my promise, Jason smiled like a little kid and happily drove us to my hometown. It wasn't far, but the mountain roads were rough, so Jason focused intently on the drive. Meanwhile, I sat in the passenger seat, enjoying all the snacks he'd packed for me. We listened to music while I texted my mom to say the relatives had already gathered at our house. When we finally arrived, my uncle lit firecrackers to celebrate. I hated loud noises. Jason noticed right away and pulled me into his arms to shield me. The relatives, who usually sneered at our family, immediately changed their tune once they received the expensive gifts Jason brought. At first, I was nervous they'd say something rude and make Jason feel uncomfortable. I had mentally rehearsed all kinds of ways to stand up for him, but it turns out I had worried for nothing. My relatives enthusiastically pulled Jason into the living room, chatting him up, offering tea, snacks, and fresh fruit. Meanwhile, I felt like an outsider. No one paid attention to me at all. "Mom, what's going on with everyone today?" I whispered, unable to hold it in. "If you don't know how to talk, just say less," she replied. "Jason brought so many gifts. Who'd be stupid enough to offend someone with a smile and deep pockets?" "Ah, I see now. So that's what all the coldness before was about, because I had no money." Under the influence of Jason's generosity, my entire family had a great time. They even happily agreed on a date for the wedding. On the drive back, Jason grinned proudly. "I did great, didn't I?" I teased him. "Money talks. Now I'm broke. I used all my savings just to win them over. Guess you're going to have to suffer with me now." "No problem. Once my craft shop opens, I'll take care of you." "Perfect," he smiled. "I'll wait for my wife to bring home the bacon." Back in the city, I handled all the wedding planning myself. Even when it came to trying on the wedding outfits, Jason barely had time. He dropped by during a quick lunch break at the hospital and hurried back immediately after. That night, while tidying up, I accidentally saw a folded notice in his bag. It was a suspension letter. I looked at Jason's tired face. He hadn't said a word about it. The next day, I quietly went to the hospital to find out what happened. Turned out, the girl Jason had saved that night, my former classmate, had undergone an emergency hysterectomy. Since there were no family members present to sign consent forms, she used that as an excuse to cause a scene at the hospital. The attending surgeon was supposed to be disciplined, but Jason stepped in and took responsibility to protect his colleague. I went to the recovery ward. Right in front of me, I saw her shouting and cursing at the nurses. I couldn't take it anymore. I stormed over and slapped her across the face. "Weren't you the one who used to mock Jason for being a gynecologist? Do you even realize he saved your life?" She froze for a second, stunned, then glared at me with hatred. "Still the same nosy drama queen," she hissed. "Who asked you to save me? I've lost everything, my dignity, my ability to have children. My life is ruined. What's the point of being alive?" Typical ungratefulness. I grabbed her by the collar. "Your condition wasn't Jason's fault. You did this to yourself. You're unmarried and secretly took abortion pills. If it weren't for him, you'd have lost more than your uterus. You wouldn't even be alive to say these disgusting things." I shoved her hard to the ground and walked away, ignoring her cries of pain. Someone like her didn't deserve pity. When I got home, Jason was sitting quietly, holding the suspension notice in his hand. He looked like he wanted to say something, but didn't. I wrapped my arms around him from behind. "I know everything," I whispered, "and it's okay. Let's run our little shop together someday and make up for all the time I lost when I left you." "Yeah, I'd love that." Thank you for listening to Romance Story Audio. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit subscribe so you won't miss the next episode.